National Industrial Court to begin adjudication on federal government ASU dispute today.
Police arrest 2 suspects over illegal petroleum refining site in Edo State.
Federal government moves to fast-track digital switchover project.
Using the economy of scale to be part of solution to a DSO, which was welcomed by both parties, and they promised to contact us very soon.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the end of an era and a new order in the British monarchy.
Indeed, Kingsley, the end of an era and the beginning of a new one.
Right.
London Bridge is down. That was the code for communicating the death of Queen Elizabeth II of blessed and cherished memory, who passed away on Thursday, the 8th of September 2022 at 96.
That's true, Juba. Now, Operation London Bridge, which is the funeral plan for Queen Elizabeth II, was created, we understand, in the 1960s and had been revised many times before the eventual passing of the Queen last Thursday. Now, the plan includes the announcement of her passing, the period of official mourning, and details of her state funeral.
We see that already played out. It's still playing out, as yesterday the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II journeyed for 6 hours and 175 miles from the Balmoral Castle, where she died, to Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, ahead of the funeral on September 19th, which is exactly a week from today.
Now, it's been days of mourning, marking the end of an era and the beginning of another in Great Britain, as well as, of course, the Commonwealth, as Charles III has officially been proclaimed King of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, as well as other realms and territories of Great Britain. Even though he became king immediately the mother passed on, the proclamation as king is a constitutional requirement which has been fulfilled.
Yes, it has been fulfilled. Interestingly now, the British flag, which flew at half-mast following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, was momentarily raised to fly at full mast for a little more than 24 hours, solely for the various proclamations of Charles III as king, before being lowered again as a mark of respect for the departed queen. A process that is so defined and institutionalized.
Yeah. Now, last week was historic, as it were, as it witnessed a new prime minister and a new king in Great Britain. So we now have King Charles III of Britain as head of the Commonwealth and defender of the faith. Now, in his first broadcast, King Charles III, who is 73, by the way, said he was deeply aware of the great inheritance and his duties as king.
Of course, he has assumed huge leadership responsibilities and a big shoe to fill, as Queen Elizabeth II left great legacies of superintending over the modernization of the British Empire in the course of her reign, which spanned 70 years and 214 days. The longest of any British monarch and the second longest recorded of any monarch of a sovereign country.
Well, it was not so much the length of her reign, but the impact, of course, that she made as queen, for which was known for with serious interest in government and political affairs, apart from her ceremonial duties, and was credited with modernizing many aspects of the monarchy. She was active until hours, even before her death, now understanding the dynamics and changes going on around the world, especially in the Commonwealth of Nations.
Indeed, she was able to meet the new prime minister before her death. I think that was her last official assignment. Now, what kind of a king or sovereign leader will Charles III likely be, and what are the challenges ahead for him, especially as it concerns the Commonwealth of Nations? We shall have guests speak on the issues on Good Morning Nigeria today. I am Juma Yusuf, welcoming you to another episode of the program and the first day of the week.
I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Jumai to also welcome you to the program after a wet weekend here.
Beautiful wet weekend.
In the nation's capital. We hope that there were no disasters because the rains were relentless. Friday, Saturday, up until yesterday. We are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, in the course of which we shall bring you our complimentary segments, including business and newspaper review. Let me just also mention this. The announcement of the passing of the Queen, which is quoted, the bridge, London Bridge is down, is unique. But one should also say that there are other cultures where there are traditions regarding the formal announcement of the passing of the monarch. I speak, for instance, of the Benin Kingdom, where the Omonoba Kwapolopolo, Omonoba Nedo, Oba of Benin. Whenever the monarch passes on, there is no announcement to say that the Oba is dead and so on and so forth. It is often rendered in the Edo language, namely, Oto Rioruwe. You know, there's white chalk, that the earth has taken the white chalk, which means that the monarch has has passed on to journey to meet his ancestors. So it's Oto Rioruwe. That is the way it is announced. At least I heard that announcement in 1978 when Oba Kenzwa II passed on, and again officially in 2006 when Oba Ediawa went on, paving the way for Oba Ewa II. So traditions there, of course, we have we had a tough relationship with the British when they invaded Benin in 1897.
And but the beauty of Africa is, you know, there's a way we announce the passing of the king, and our culture and tradition is well, you know, it's in depth.
Absolutely.
It's something that no colonization was able to take away from us, and that is one beautiful aspect of.
All right, for now, let's join Nolile Belame, who has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Nolile.
Good morning, Kingsley and Jumai. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. The National Industrial Court of Nigeria is to begin adjudication over unresolved disputes involving the federal government of Nigeria, Federal Ministry of Education, and Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, today. A referral instrument regarding the trade dispute between the parties was raised for adjudication in line with powers vested on the Minister of Labor and Employment, Chris Ngige, by trade dispute resolution mechanisms and the provision of Section 17 of the Trade Dispute Act, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. The referral addresses the ongoing strike, which commenced on the 14th of February 2022. The parties in dispute are ASU, Minister of Education, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, and the Minister of Labor and Employment. Nigeria is to partner, says a broadcasting transmitter manufacturing company, to fast-track the nation's digital switchover project. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed disclosed this after a meeting with the company's World Sales Director on the sidelines of the ongoing International Broadcast Conference holding in Amsterdam, Netherlands.
The economy of scale to be part of solution to a DSO, which was welcomed by both parties, and they promised to contact us very soon.
We will follow up very soon with our proposal, which will encompass and address all the matters that the Minister has asked us to consider.
We have found a kind of room for partnership between us and of course, the Italian company, how we can now leverage on this and see that we push the DSO project to a very appreciable level.
The Nigerian Export Promotion Council has resolved to address the challenges of exports and the restrictions of some key Nigerian products in Europe and other international commodity markets. Executive Director of the NEPC, Ezra Yakusak, stated this during a working visit to the United Kingdom.
The last count, we had about 145 rejects coming from Nigeria alone on different products, mainly or mostly food products.
Our products must meet international standards. We can't cut corners when it comes to export. And we have to emphasize formal trade business, not informal.
The Buhari Media Organization has described the electronic payment system introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria as a game changer in the economy. The media group, in a statement, said the introduction and implementation of the e-Naira is a laudable effort to the success of the digital economy and government's solutions to foreign exchange challenges. 3 people have died in Sakua village and surrounding communities in Zaki local government area of Bauchi State as a result of flash flood caused by seasonal rains. The flood has washed off 3 sections of the Azare-Zaki highway.
On behalf of the government and people of Bauchi State, to commiserate and extend our condolences to the Zaki and Gama local governments over this very unfortunate incident that happened here. Excessive flooding that has affected farmlands and our homes, over 1,400 houses destroyed.
And talking security now, operatives of the IGP Special Task Force on Petroleum and Illegal Bunkering have busted an illegal petroleum refining operation in Edo State. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi says the clampdown follows an intelligence from a whistleblower on the activities of the alleged illicit petroleum products refining syndicate operating adjacent to Agbo Junction, Benin City, Edo State. Consequently, 3 empty DAF trucks and 31 immobile surface tanks, 7 of which were loaded with unspecified quantity of petroleum products, were discovered, while 2 suspects were arrested during the raid. As the countdown to the 2023 population and housing census continues, the National Population Commission (NPC) says it is strictly adhering to procurement principles and making transparency its watchword. Chairman of the Commission gave the assurance at a capacity building workshop on procurement techniques for members of the Commission.
The Commission is irrevocably committed to accountability and transparency in the spending of funds entrusted in its care, and deliver to this great nation accurate, reliable, and acceptable census.
That's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Jumai and Kingsley after this timeout. Please don't go away. I am Norlene Ebel-Ame. Good morning.
It's your time to win big with the Oral-B bumper promotion. Buy any Oral-B pack for a chance to win 1 million naira. Yes, 1 million naira. 3 winners every month. Buy any pack of Oral-B, write your name and phone number on the empty pack, submit to any of our designated centers, and stand a chance to win 1 million naira. The Oral-B bumper promotion will run from 12th of August to 12th of November 2022. Visit our social media pages for more information. Buy Oral-B today and start winning. Terms and conditions apply.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. Every morning is one day closer to your ambition. So, make every morning count. Cup after cup, morning after morning. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
When you wake up in the morning, before you start your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time. For work and for play, for a great start to your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
We always start their day with a nourishing Kellogg's breakfast, powered with the goodness of grains and 11 essential vitamins and minerals. Kellogg's makes a great tasting breakfast for all of us.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
All I do is win. I wake up, I win. I close my eyes, and I win.
We got a emergency, girlfriend.
Keep up with me, come on, let's go. Keep winning till the world stops spinning. Independent women, come on, now let's get it. I'ma keep winning till the world stops.
Wow, you look great. Did you just come from the salon?
Darling Superstar, grades that stay salon fresh no matter what.
What is happening? Your eyes are red. You are armed with a machete and a gun.
See, I am angry and I can't even contain it. See.
Oh, my guy, calm down, calm down.
See, Oga, I have planned to go and destroy these people's businesses in the city. I have to retaliate for what they've done at their own place. They cannot eat their cake and have it now, never.
If you destroy their business here, and they destroy that of those close to you over there, especially that your brother who sends you steady cash, how would you survive? Would your dreams be on hold?
See, what you're saying is correct. But I'm still angry.
The best way is to embrace peace. With peace and unity,
my people, let us embrace peace and unity. Let's learn to live as brothers and sisters for a progressive, prosperous nation. This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Next on the program is Business News with Alika Panachi Arua.
Experts from various sectors have advocated entrepreneurial education from primary, secondary, and tertiary levels to empower graduates with the skills and knowledge to be self-reliant and contribute meaningfully to economic development. They emphasized that there should be a shift from the current approach to education to realize self-reliance and economic growth of the country, as many products of institutions of learning have the orientation of taking paid employment after their studies.
And entrepreneurial thinking basically applies to whether you are trying to do entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, INTRA. So entrepreneurship means going into employment. So we're trying to use entrepreneurial thinking to achieve employment, but also starting up businesses. And this is why in our model in Tungsten, we think if you integrate education, business, media, and finance, that is the best way that this entrepreneurial thinking can be achieved. So this is why we brought these people from different parts of the sectors, public sector, private sector, non-profit, to talk about this.
When the youth says school is a scam, they're saying only one thing. School is a disconnect to the reality of the society. That's what they're saying, a disconnect. And for me, I think school needs to go back to what the curriculum is offering. School needs to be more relevant to the society. The society that school was created for no longer exists. The current society, there has to be a new school for that society.
They also explain that entrepreneurial thinking is key, not only to achieve employment, but also in starting up businesses. With Business News, Alika Opanachi Arua.
Many thanks, Alika, for the business package. Next is newspaper review.
have a couple of papers this morning, the Punch and the Daily Trust. Let's begin by taking a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper, and thereafter we'll go over to the Daily Trust. Above the nameplates of the paper, total manufactured goods fall 36%, inflation may worsen. Federal government loses 13.21 million barrels oil worth 603 billion in 2022. 500 senior doctors left Nigeria, says medical body. SANS and profs to defend ASU before industrial court. Monkeypox cases hit 241, Lassa fever now 909. Kogi buries 130 unclaimed corpses. You have details of that on page 13. Federal government may lose 7.58 trillion naira to contract disputes and damages. Firm demands 2.3 billion naira for alleged Bambila contract breach, files fresh $400 million suit. Most cases against government due to officials' negligence and poor handling, say SANS. Buhari administration has capacity to overturn cases against the government. Buhari administration has capacity to overturn cases against the government. That's AGF office, Attorney General. Tributes as Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrives Edinburgh. You can see the composite photographs there on the front page, courtesy of AFP. Once again, tributes as Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrives Edinburgh. Jermaine?
Yeah, and we have the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, and just, the headlines we have in the Daily Trust today is life pension for heads of service, permanent secretaries, upset contributory scheme. Life pension for heads of service, permanent secretaries, upset contributory scheme with riders. How new policy negates constitution. Police, professors push for exclusion too. Trend dangerous, reverse approval, experts tell Buhari. The illustration there you can see has all the details. You can just go through them to get more information. And as a side piece of the illustration here, Ifeanyi Uba's convoy attacked in Anambra, orderlies gunned down. Ifeanyi Uba's convoy attacked in Anambra, orderlies gunned down. Ransom fraud, outcome of investigations on Mamu mind-boggling. Ransom fraud, outcome of investigations on Mamu mind-boggling. That's coming from the DSS. E-payment hit monthly all-time high of 33 trillion in August 2022. And, we need to promote our local manufacturers, our local products in Nigeria. And one good thing that is happening here is Erisco is, is setting the trend there.
Yeah,
setting the pace.
No question about that. Risco Foods has been in the forefront, if you may, of Made in Nigeria. And patronizing Made in Nigeria, of course, will continue to boost companies that are regularly producing for the economy. And Chief Eric Umofia, who is the chairman and CEO of Risco, has often been a guest on Good Morning Nigeria, because and one comment that he made that I found very interesting some time in the past was to say, look, when either investors or manufacturers complain about challenges in the operating environment, a number of them often will point to inadequate public power supply. He said, look, that is not his problem. That's what he said. He said, from day one, I factored into my production cost that we're not going to have reliable public power supply. So you get alternatives, even though now that cost has escalated. He said his greatest concern always had to do with uncontrolled importation, which is virtually the same thing as dumping. You have goods coming in from different parts of the world, and there are no restrictions, or well, of course, if you say protectionism, some persons will raise the argument about WTO agreements and so on and so forth. But the key thing about what he says is that a country also ought to be able to protect its own infant industries.
Yeah, of course.
You can use tariffs and so on and so forth to get that. But sometimes it looks like some of these goods just flood the market, and the next thing is we are complaining. You have high inventory from local manufacturers. They are unable to push their products into the market, and
taxes and so on.
Of course, he also complains about multiple
taxation,
almost punitive taxation from a wide variety of agencies, all in the name of IGR. So I think that's a good point. But the lead story by the Punch newspaper, in my opinion, is a very, very big story. I'm talking about the lead story of the Punch newspaper now. We've finished with the Erisco Foods. Punch newspaper, that's the lead story. Federal government may lose 7.58 trillion naira to contract disputes and damages. Now,
that's huge.
That's when just forget the amount in the meantime. We have a number of contracts that have generated a lot of public interest as well. The most popular in recent years has been P&ID, which was obviously a bogus contract entered into by government officials on behalf of the Nigerian state, and then a dispute arose. The company that got into the contract with Nigeria, they didn't have the capacity to do what it was supposed to do. So my point is this. Over the years, because when you say contract disputes and damages, of course, are the penalty that you suffer imposed on you either by arbitration or by a judicial decision. Of course, an arbitration normally will go for registration as a judicial decision. When these damages are imposed on the Nigerian government, it now becomes a judgment debt for us. Yeah. Now, over the years, if not decades, I have never seen or heard of any government official, dead or alive, who has been held accountable for getting into some of these phony contracts.
I call it crimes.
Absolutely, for which the country is now suffering. Because sometimes it just appears as if you have persons who enter into contracts on behalf of the Nigerian state without due regard to the consequences, without even understanding what they are signing. So, but if you do that, then what are the consequences for you? If the country, precisely, if the country then suffers as a result of disputes arising and damages being imposed on the country. So we should now, because I think that the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, along, of course, with maybe other attorneys general of the various states, to begin to look into this category of, if you like, it's negligence on the part of government officials who get into this kind of contracts. It could also, if you dig deep, it could also be instances of collusion.
Yes.
So when you say Mambila, when you say Ajakuta, when you say all kinds of deals and all kinds of programs, people sign government and sign the Nigerian state off, and at the end of the day, they are busy enjoying themselves. And then when you say the Nigerian government is paying for this, it is you and I that ultimately will pay for it. So
some might even become generational debt.
Absolutely. So what then should the Nigerian government begin to do with regard to instances of this nature that have been settled? And then you say you go back, you do your forensic analysis. How did this happen?
Exactly.
Of course, if somebody is dead, you can say the person is now well beyond justice. But the documentary evidence will be there. And if you ask me, punishment ought never to escape whoever was responsible for acts of this nature. And you never get to hear their voice. They are saying now, federal government may lose this. Who were those that signed those contracts?
Is it the federal government? It is the Nigerian that would lose that kind of money. And, you know, you remember on so many forums when we had the Attorney General here, I've always asked him this pertinent question. When would the head start ruling? It hasn't ruled up till now. And one other thing, let's talk about, are we ever going to get this pension scheme right in this country?
I don't know. Why do you ask?
I ask because life pension for, you know, offset contributory scheme. New out all the time. It's like it's a controversy that is going on and on and on, a conversation that just never rests.
Well, I saw that story some days ago. My greater concern, if you ask me, has to do with the discrepancy in the pay in the civil service. And let me explain.
Okay.
For you to become a permanent secretary, say in the federal service, and also in the states, even though at some point in Edo State, there was the unusual circumstance of getting an outsider and appointing him a permanent secretary. This was under Oshomole, and there was a great deal of uproar over that, and I think he has since, the appointee has since exhausted his tenure and eased out of office. So, when in other states and in the federal government, for you to become a permanent secretary, you must be a director. A director is on grade level 17 at the federal level and also at the state level. But here's the catch. You are required to write an exam before you go before you, of course, you are chosen amongst those. And the criteria, basically two. You qualify, there must be a vacancy from your state, or there must be a vacancy from your zone. So there are 6 zones and there are 36 states, and of course plus the federal capital territory. So assuming there is no vacancy from your zone, there's no vacancy from your state, you as a director, if you know you are qualified, you write your exam, you do very well in the exam, you never get to be appointed. But the discrepancy that I'm talking about here is the pay difference between a director who then becomes a permanent secretary is almost 3 times. So how do you explain that? And a number of directors have quarreled about this because the basis for the computation of your contributory pension is what you earn.
It's what you earn.
So suddenly you and I are directors, for instance. I'm not a director, but you and I are directors. One of us becomes a permanent secretary. The person will be earning 3 times more than the other. Yes. And then your contributory pension, which is a function, for instance, of 5% to 5%, I think the percentage has changed somewhat. Yeah, it's changed. It is based on what you earn. So it goes on, and if you then retire as a director, you retire on what you get. Plus, a permanent secretary earns that salary for life.
Yes, for life.
So for me, I think those are more contentious issues than just looking and say, oh, life pension is an issue. Yes. It is what you earn. You become a permanent secretary. It's a privilege, and then you earn your salary for life. Your director, who was
some permanent secretaries, are extended at times.
We have seen that in recent years. So I think those are the issues they ought to fight for. Because how do you explain that discrepancy in pay? When, for instance, somebody who becomes a permanent secretary, with the greatest respect to all those who are permanent secretaries, may not be necessarily the best amongst his class.
Of course, but it's the Character Commission that does it all. Okay, thank you so much for staying with us on the paper review. We'll take a break. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go away.
When you wake up in the morning, before you start your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time. For work and for play, for a great start to your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
We always start our day with a nourishing Kellogg's breakfast, powered with the goodness of grains and 11 essential vitamins and minerals. Kellogg's makes a great tasting breakfast for all of us.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Wait. Mama T, wetin COVID vaccine poster they do for your domot? Abi, you don't begin work for those people.
Big mommy, na me put the poster there. Our teacher say COVID-19 vaccine dey safe well and it go protect you, me, and all our family from COVID-19. Our teacher sabi road, big mommy. Make you follow who know road.
My name is Dr. Chinonso Egemba. Then they call me a Aproko doctor. The COVID-19 vaccine na obonge way to take protect you and your family from wahala, sickness, and death from COVID-19. Or you have to get your own free COVID-19 vaccine. Sharply go any healthcare facility way near you.
My son has always dreamt of being in the spotlight. That's why I give him Bornvita for everyday vitality that gives him the strength to pursue his dreams. Bornvita, strength to dream.
We are all Nigerians.
Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportation, kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, as a prompt for our conversation, which is on the end of an era and the beginning of another in the British monarchy, let's listen to this background report compiled by our correspondent, Abdulsalam Jibril.
London Bridge is down. The code word for Queen Elizabeth II's death echoed around the world on Thursday, 8 September 2022. President Muhammadu Buhari joined other world leaders in paying tributes to the Queen, who died at the age of 96. In Britain, people gathered to lay flowers and pay tributes to the Queen. From assumption of the throne on 6 February 1952 at the age of 25 until her death in 2022, her reign of 70 years and 214 days is the longest of any British monarch and the second longest of any monarch of a sovereign country. The Queen saw 14 prime ministers come and go during her reign and had just appointed a 15th only days before her death. Some international analysts note that the Queen oversaw the monarchy's evolution into a champion of a diminished United Kingdom, and she worked tirelessly to keep the crown relevant in a changing world. Others also maintain that during her reign, she faced occasional sentiments and media criticism of her family, particularly after the marriages of her children hit the rocks and the death of her former daughter-in-law Diana, Princess of Wales, in 1997. The moment the Queen died, the throne passed immediately to the heir, Charles, the former Prince of Wales, who was proclaimed King Charles III on 10th September 2022.
God save the King!
God save the King! Experts stress that the 73-year-old's ascension to the throne heralds a new chapter in the history of the British monarchy. They insist that his reign starts amidst high inflation in the United Kingdom, post-Brexit challenges, war in Europe, an energy supply problem, a new prime minister, and allegations of royal racism. These issues will form the crux of discussions as guests on the program speak to issues on the British monarchical system shortly.
And to discuss the topic, let me introduce here in Abuja studio Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you.
He's a regular here. And also another regular is in the studio, May Nasara Koko Umar, international analyst on governance and international building. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here.
All right, we have two guests who are joining us via Zoom this morning. From Lagos, let's welcome Paul Ejime. He's an international affairs analyst. Paul, we're glad to have you with us this morning. Also joining us via Zoom from the United Kingdom is Ale Soyode. It's a former global leader, Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, and founder, First Black and Ethnic Satellite TV in Europe. Soyode, Alistair, we're glad to have you this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much, and good morning to Nigerians and your guests in the studio.
Yeah, it's let's start with Jokeshi Kisley. It's Thursday was a day the whole world practically stood still when the news broke out that the Queen has died. Can you tell us the tempo, the temperature of the world at that moment?
Well, one of the editorials in one Nigerian newspaper described it as a rude shock. But my first reaction was, for a 96-year-old woman, it can be a rude shock. You know, or if you again refer to the byline of a Kenyan television, Charles the King has become the Queen. This of course is all because the departed Queen has lived for such a long time, reigned for such a long time, and in fact I guess that everybody has forgotten that there will ever be another king or queen, you know, in the process. Yeah, but frankly, you know, in her role and for the long years she has ruled, she was a global leader. And the way she has handled the monarchy in the last 70 years, you know, has actually elevated the monarchy into a global institution in which all over the world you have those who spend considerable number of time watching, you know, what's going on in Buckingham Palace. And the television, the global television, has also been helpful to expanding her role and visibility. Particularly, let's leave the controversies for a while now. Yes. Particularly when the kids get married, beginning from Diana and the rest of them, you know, millions, with all due respect, particularly women, glued to the television just to watch, you know, the ceremony, I guess, because of the fashion and the rest of it and so on. But the truth is that the way she has comported herself, the way she has managed, you know, to hold the throne together and successfully pass it on to, you know, to her son, despite the global changes between when she assumed the office as the Queen of England to today, she has also evolved with the changes, you know, one way or the other. And this has brought respect to the monarchy. This has also brought international recognition and respect, you know, not just to the monarchy, but to the British flag as well.
All right, Ambassador Keshi, thank you very much. Let's join Alistair now via Zoom, if he's still there. Alistair, well, tell us what it is like for the Queen to pass away and the mood amongst the various populations in the United Kingdom.
Well, it is very important to know that, you know, not everybody loved the monarchy. There are a few that are still against the monarchy, but 90% plus are celebrating what Her Majesty has done to Great Britain, to other nations that she leads and shown dedication to. If you remember from the time that she assumed that role, she said she wanted to serve humanity, she wanted to serve her people. And without any doubt, for the last 7 decades, that is what she has done. That's what she has brought to the British people and to other nations that are around her nation that she has led, including the Commonwealth. Even though recently, months ago or a year ago, when Barbados decided to say they are no more under the Queen. So what we are now seeing is a transition of indeed an era, moving from the Prince to King Charles now. And all over here in the United Kingdom, as may have been seen on television, people are lining up, people are queuing, people are celebrating what she has done for them. Many people who are in their 70s going downward, the only thing they ever know that brought royalty to the focus and mind of people is the Queen of England. So without any doubt, it seems like without any doubt, surely enough, she died where she loved most, Scotland. Which again, if somebody wants to look at it, could really show that she won the kingdom, at least here, to be united by going to Balmoral, dying over there in Scotland, and now being brought back to England for her burial. And when you look at that, there's a massive strategy and a bond between Scottish people and England, which will be here for another thousands of years historical perspective, which is something, again, that you agree that the British people know how to keep history, story documented. So she has died where she loved, and she has been brought back to her people for burial. That is another, for me, something that I would say is a strategic way of leaving behind a massive legacy that it will be very, very hard for a long time for anybody to be able to achieve or reach that kind of level.
I was going to ask you still, Alistair, I mean, this is probably speculative, if some otherwise would say that is also probably superstitious. What did it mean when the husband of Queen Elizabeth, the Duke of Edinburgh, passed away last year? He was 99. And a year later, the Queen herself has gone. I recall one of the statements that she made in the past that, look, the Duke of Edinburgh, that's Prince Philip, was her pillar of support. Did that absence, in a sense, also accelerate her passing? Even though we must recognize that there's longevity in their family. Her mom passed on, the Queen Mother, at 101. Alistair?
Well, again, one can agree as well, where a couple have been together, not just in the royal family, have been together for decades and having a wonderful relationship. Normally such things do happen. And in this situation, without any doubt, Her Majesty indicated that he is her rock, he is her pillar, he is our partner for forever and ever. So the assumption can be accepted that her rock is gone. But again, it is actually good that she didn't leave before her rock left. So now they can, as we describe it here in the United Kingdom, they will now go and continue their royalty on the other side of humanity. And she has done brilliantly well. And again, it is a good time. She saw at least the new Prime Minister coming into office and given her the mantle and the authority to rule over the British people. And now really, as I said, the whole nation is mourning, and superstitious or otherwise, she has done brilliantly well to go and rise. And now, of course, we now have King Charles III.
Indeed, you've raised some questions there that our guest here, I think, will be able to address. Let's come back to the studio, Minister Umar. Let's have your take on the passing of the Queen. And indeed, I see very big shoes to fill there.
Yes, the most popular monarchical head in the world is gone. Queen Elizabeth epitomizes not only the Queen of England. If you consider the roles she played for the world, 15 countries in the world, she is their head of state. She has been the head of state for 15 countries. She's the head of the Commonwealth, talking about, I don't know the exact number, but about 40 or 40 something countries 50, very good, very good. 56 countries. And then somebody that, you know, flag off 26 different times the Olympic Games. And somebody that survived to the successful tenure of 15 prime ministers. Somebody who was able to maintain the royalty without any turbulence, which is different from some of the democratic experiments we normally see in a situation whereby even if it's, for example, taking Nigeria into cognizance, there has never been any president in the country that has never faced a challenge, or even our monarchical system here, with the events in the Emir's tussle in Kano, the Sultanate, virtually every monarchical system with the exception of Benin, I think they are facing one upheaval or the other when it comes to the issue of succession, or even during the reign. And then going by
which one did you say, Benin?
Benin City, apart from Benin City, Benin is one of
you said apart from, oh, all right.
Yes,
I thought
Benin City is one of the monarchical systems I so much revered. You understand? Because of the stability of the entrenchment of the culture and tradition over the years. You know, leadership is ability of a leader to be able to set goals, to inspire and make sure he gets the rightful followership, and at the same time to stabilize the gains whenever it occurs. So going by the paces of history she passed through, she just got into the throne 1952, few years after the World War, the Second World War. And then 5 years earlier than that time, precisely 1947, when she was proclaimed heir apparent, she said that she would dedicate the entirety of her life to the service of the people and humanity. And we have seen much, a game of words and action. What she said, she really entrenched it within a period of 7 decades. And during this period, she saw a lot of things: decolonization. Britain was the country, Britain under the Queen was having more colonies than any other country in the world, but was able to agree to, submit to the tides of the climatic demands politically for independence. And then she supported many countries to be liberated. And even after the independence, taking Nigeria into cognizance, we gained Republican status 1963. She technically decided to go by assisting the colonies then towards independence in getting quality leadership. The various London constitutional conferences before 1960, and then the quality of the leadership produced as a result of her own guidance and technical selection. And then even after the independence, the infrastructural support we got from the Commonwealth of Nations, talking about her preference that time when Chief Emeka Anyauku bidded for the Secretary Generalship and eventually got it, and then the support she gave, and then given countries like Nigeria, recently Kenya, and so many other countries the right to host the Commonwealth Summit. And then the equality among the member nations there, she portrayed. I can remember very well when Emperor Haile Selassie visited her in 1962. She showed indelible respect to the Lord of the Jah, even though he's a king in Africa. She showed indelible respect, removing her crown, removing the shoes and everything. She bowed to him, never minding her status then as the queen of the world. So when you are looking at Queen Elizabeth, for her to have managed about 1/3 of the total population of the world, and then for her to be able to be the midwife of the upheavals during the Cold War. During the Cold War, she played a very significant role in ensuring that the problems between the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc got settled. And then when you look at the European Union, especially during the Brexit period, she played a very charismatic role there in seeing to the successful, peaceful resolution of the matter. And then she kept serving as, the person behind the mask. Whenever one of the superpowers that was its own former colony, talking about the United States, was trying to go into excess, especially during the aggressive periods of the 1990s. She played very significant role. Even right now, the conflict in Ukraine, for example, people were expecting that the panacea will be in the Queen's intervention. Unfortunately, God loves her best, decided that the gerontocratic age of 96 years served is ripe enough for her to go and rest in the hands of the Lord. So really it's a loss not just to the United Kingdom, but it's a loss entirely to the world, because there is no aspect of the world, whether political, economy, social, historical, or what have you, that doesn't have an input of Her Most Esteemed Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Thank you very much, Menasara Kogo, for your comments. Just to indicate, because at the beginning, I want to state that again, because Menasara Kogo was talking about the Benin Empire, but this is not to personalize it. The code for the formal announcement of the passing of the Queen was said the London Bridge is down. And I said when we were bantering, just to open the program this morning, that in Benin Kingdom, whenever the monarch passes on, the formal announcement, of course, is not made immediately, and you don't also say that the king or the Oba is dead. What you say in the Edo language is that Oto Riorue. That is, white chalk, that the earth has accepted white chalk. Of course, white stands for purity, that he has gone back to his ancestors. So that code, once it is made that Oto Riorue, it means that the great Oba has gone. I just thought I should mention that again. There are many aspects, of course, I will be talking about in the course of today's conversation. Paul Ejibe also is there with us via Zoom. We earlier introduced him. It's on the right side. Paul, Queen Elizabeth II was a global leader. What does her passing mean at this time in world affairs?
So it means the end of an era. For instance, about a woman who, ascended the throne at 25 and was there for 70 years, and then passed on at 96. So age 96. So over these years, like some have said, she has seen 15 prime ministers of Britain, has interacted with about also 15 presidents of United States and all that. What's going on?
Well, it's like the electricity is off.
No, we have no.
We have no idea really what happened.
Has happened to Paul Ejibe. I think
the link there.
All right, Paul, we understand you are back. What happened?
Okay. Go on.
I had to go and switch on, is it NEPA or power holding, because I was using my generator. So that is about our country. But let's go back to Britain. So I was giving you the, about a little bit about the chronology of the fact that she has touched many lives. She was the leader of Commonwealth. There used to be 56 countries, and then 14 or 15 other former colonies where she also is the ceremonial head. In those periods, a lot has happened. Many people have concentrated on the bright side, the goodness, the good heart, the symbol of dignity that she represented, a stabilizer of, the royal family, a mother, a grandmother, and then perhaps great-grandmother. But you see, nobody, no man, you will say, has no other side. A coin always has the two sides. But they say you don't speak ill of the dead. But you will recall that, for instance, in South Africa, some people are talking about describing the fact that she presided over a colonialist country. And then there was also the issue of slave trade. Slavery, which the monarch participated in, probably not before her, but there was a saying that perhaps she could have done something about it. We are not being revisionists here, but remember that recently, last year, Prince Charles, now King Charles III, mentioned slavery, describing it as an appalling atrocity. Many had expected the England under the Queen Elizabeth, after that reigned for 70 years, to have come up with, she's not in government, she's apolitical, but also influence policy that could bring closure to that kind of thing. It's not enough to apologize, it's not enough to, because that affected millions of people, particularly Africans. The monarchy had plantations where slaves were taken. Britain and others, when it was the abolition, they paid the slave owners, but not slaves or from where slaves were taken. These are some of the issues. The other thing is also that she presided over a royal family that is not short of what is it called, scandals. Even the king that has now come in is a controversial character, and one is saying, what happens, how can he manage it? So her passing will mean a lot. And remember, they're also talking, there are those who are saying that the monarchy is anachronistic, perhaps it should go into history, but royalists are saying no, it represents a core ingredient of the British culture and tradition. Remember that countries like Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, they have also been talking about independence. So these will King Charles be able to bring the kind of stabilizing factor that the mother did? That remains to be seen. But I think she has played her part. She came, she has seen, and perhaps she conquered what she could conquer. But there were other things that, as a human being, that she couldn't really engage. I mentioned apartheid. Of course, Britain was under Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister, was against sanctions against apartheid regime. But the Queen, we have to remember, was on the side of Africans, trying to say, please impose sanctions so that, to force the racist government to relinquish power. So she has played a lot of roles. Many do not know what goes into meetings between her and many heads of state that she has seen. Perhaps she has put in a word or two about, but some activities of royalty is shrouded in mystery. It's something, if you speak with royalty or the monarch with some reverence, that because the queen or the king, after God, I think it's probably the king or the monarch in Britain. That is why today now they are moving from God save the queen to God save the king. So her passing will actually affect a lot of things in the world, but a lot will depend on what the son, who has waited for a very long time, ascending the throne at 73, and then with the character that he has, and then all that the baggage that goes with him. I don't need to go into all that, but he has his job cut out for him. Whether Britain will remain united under him, or whether they are going to go their separate ways, whether Commonwealth will see another unifying hands, that is another thing. And then what about Africa and all the other countries, those that were former British colonies, but are those that have really gained their independence, are those that are still there? What is going to happen? A lot will depend on what King Charles III brings to the table. Don't forget that the Prime Minister is also new. Liz Truss coming in. I think she just took over 2 days before the Queen passed. So it's a lot. Britain is going through a lot, like other many countries. They blame it on the Ukraine-Russian war and the sanctions that they have ceaselessly applied, which is having a boomerang effect on the whole of Europe. Inflation is rising. For the first time, I think it's going to the double digits. And then cost of living have gone up in Britain as it has in European countries, not to talk about Africa, that we are depending on grains from Ukraine and Russia. And how ironic that can be, that Africa has a vast land, arable land, but they are still depending on foreign countries for things like grain. Anyway, let me not digress so that I can give the others. I welcome, good morning, Ambassador Keshi and others who are there, other guests.
Indeed, you've said so much, and you've sort of shifted from the topic itself. You've gone deeper in. Ambassador Keshi, she has been blamed so many times, even after her death, for the role her predecessors played, in the world, and her death has been described as, depriving Britain of the thread that wove the nation together and linked it to its past. It is so hard to imagine Britain without the Queen. Coming to foreign policy, how do you think it's going to play out here?
Based on the last two conversations, let me start by answering your question and for better understanding that the Queen reigns. The Queen does not rule, she reigns. And so trying to blame some policy on her, yes, she may or might have been briefed. She might have expressed some opinion. We don't know. Because one of the things that I've always said since she died is that she's probably one of the most, if not the most disciplined, head of government. As has been said, she has met 15 or 16 prime ministers. She has met, except Lyndon Johnson, she's met virtually every United States president in this era, not to talk of global world leader that she has met. But nobody has ever had opinion of any of these things. Nobody. So you don't really know where she stands on, I guess she leaves that after the briefing. She offers her advice to her prime ministers and then just leave them to do whatever, they have done. So the Queen reigns, or the monarchy reigns, but certainly does not rule. What happens at the end of the day is based on the policy decisions of the government at that time. So in terms of foreign policy, foreign policy, or the cardinal principles of foreign policy hardly changes. It's virtually almost the same all over the world. What changes in terms of foreign policy is the character, the vision, the personality of who is the president or prime minister at that time, and what he or she decides to, to do. So you can expect, for example, that the relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom will remain as it is. Whatever it is today, it will probably remain, for, like that for a long time. The relationship between the British people and the European Union, for example, will remain as has been decided, post-Brexit, not to talk of, for example, the relationship between the Britain and the United States will still remain a special relationship as they describe it. So you would see that with the ascension of the new king, and being careful not to say, not to slide the king as the queen, So with his ascension to the throne, you see that there'll be very little dramatic change, if any. But I have a strong feeling that because he has prepared and has been in waiting, for the last 70 years, and because we also started this conversation, Benin was mentioned, and also did not behave like one of the late Benin prince, correct me if I'm wrong, who was said to be cutting the white hair to show to the father that I'm still here. So it's my turn.
That was a rumor.
Very well.
It was a royal rumor.
I'm still waiting.
It was a royal rumor.
So the point I'm trying to make is that for 70 years, he's been waiting. They have prepared him. He's engaged himself in a number of issues, controversial issues, yes, because he was at that time not the king. And he is also fully aware, of the changing moods at times in the kingdom. And therefore, my God's feeling is that he's going to do the best he can to respond to all this, borrowing from a number of things that the mom has done, by reaching out, particularly to all these provinces, and ensuring that she helps to bring everybody together and maintain the United Kingdom as a unit, rather than see it divided. But in terms of foreign policy, nothing dramatic or not a lot will change, because the cardinal principles that define a nation's foreign policy invariably, remains constant.
Okay, Ambassador Kashi, thank you very much. The point you made about foreign policy remaining largely constant is one that I would like Alistair Ashoyode to also respond to. Alistair, if you are there, the perspective of the foreign policy issue, if you may, has to do with the point that was touched on. If we can see Alistair, then I'll know that he's right there. So there on the right side of the screen, it has to do with one of the issues raised by Paul Ejime. Last year, and the year before, actually, 2020 to 2021, we saw a wave of protests across the world following the gruesome murder of George Floyd by police officers, which led to the movement of Black Lives Matter, which then triggered campaigns for reparation and indeed the pulling down of statues of persons who were profiteers, if you may, from the slave trade. We saw that parts of it also in the United Kingdom. Some of those statues had to be taken down and so on and so forth. But now the Queen is gone, and suddenly the debate is back about reparations, about the role of the British monarchy in the slave trade, that there ought to have been some reparations for the victims of the slave trade, not slavery now, because slavery had predated even the slave trade, of slave trade, which led to, of course, the dehumanization and injustice against the black race. Is this a matter that is also an issue in the public domain in the United Kingdom, or where there's still some sobriety in terms of mourning the passing of the Queen? And if it is still a question of mourning, is this an issue that King Charles III will have to confront?
Well, thank you very much. Definitely, there has been a lot of noise about the slave trade, reparation, compensation to the African people, to people who are involved. Just like rather than those who participated in the trade, were being given money, Africa and many other nations are calling for the same contribution. But the other point as well, or question here is, does the United Kingdom has the resources to pay the compensation, which is one thing that they have to avoid. And that is the reason why, in terms of government attitude, they are not coming out in public to say to give their apology on the trade issue. Now, let's look at it to say, yes, the Black Lives Matter has been very prominent in the United Kingdom and around the world, but most especially here in the outcry and demands of things that need to be rectified. Now, I have met the Queen, and I know that without any doubt, she is a person who is capable and has reason, just like it has been shared earlier, when she meet the head of state, have a conversation with them, and then leave them to go out and do the necessary thing that they have to do. Now, she has never been known publicly to air her opinion. But with King Charles, at least we know before his accession now, he has been known to write and demand and seek opinion publicly to do with government policy, to the point that even the government were demanding or requesting that he should just focus on the royal issue rather than focusing on government policy. Now, being the king, he has already as well shared that when he becomes the king, he's not stupid, his word, to continue to do the thing that he's not supposed to do in terms of royalty, tradition, and government policy. But again, as has been shared earlier as well, that he recognized the fact that something has taken place before their time and apologized or seemed to make a presentation that they want to change those negative stories about the African people and the thing that has taken place. So one may be expecting him now as the king to really share more internally, because again, there is a secrecy of what they discuss, which is not known, as Her Majesty never been known to come out in public to say it, but she had definitely shared it with the head of state and the prime ministers are concerned. So we may hope that him now being the king, he will be able to show that strength, that boldness, internally making a presentation on behalf of those issues. And there is no doubt, as we have seen, a major professor in the United States made a comment on Twitter, and some other global icon or global names responded to her. But what she has done as well is she has brought that issue to the public gallery, to the public debate, public opinion, and public view, for people to consider without any doubt that those things that have taken place, could there be a contribution, could there be a support, could there be given, rather than what we may call grant and donation, but compensate them for the African people for this thing that have taken place over the last 100 years or so. So Black Lives Matter, they will continue to make a demand, and a new government, both here in the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister is new, the King is new. Let's see if Nigeria can, and with other nations, make a serious demand for that contribution. I want to use the word contribution and compensation to slave trade issue, which is relevant to African people, but it's something worth considered. And for King Charles now, really, the world at large will be looking at him to see what he's going to do. That will be a major legacy, a major thing that shifts the momentum. And can he retain the Commonwealth? Can he retain the nation that are there? So he is expected, without any doubt, to come out and do something meaningfully that will unite and keep this Commonwealth nation around him, that will unite and keep the United Kingdom, and then, if need be, bring in new things that will improve the United Kingdom status in the global community of their presentation, public views, and opinions.
Alistair, thank you very much for your explanation. Just to shift to another issue, which has to do with some of the challenges that the new king will, of course, have to take on. He has been the titular head of the Commonwealth for many years now. After Queen Elizabeth II, his mom, relinquished that position on account of age and, of course, rescheduling of her workload, and said, look, Prince Charles, as he then was, take on the role of head of the Commonwealth. So the Commonwealth is expanding, so he has his job cut out for him. But in terms of welding together the United Kingdom, we've seen in recent years a lot of agitation for self-determination. Scotland, of course, had the referendum. It didn't fly. There's pressure again for another referendum, and always Northern Ireland is an issue there. Are these matters that are likely to boil to the top during during King Charles's reign?
Well, as I said, Her Majesty dying in Scotland would not now make it easy for Scotland to pull away, even if they want to pull away politically and in terms of government status. She coming back from Scotland into England, it really strengthened the bond in terms of royalty. And when you take into account that her family are still leading in terms of that royal angle over Scotland. So it will strengthen that union, but of course, in terms of government policy and direction, it may be different. Now, King Charles definitely, without any doubt, he has a big job to do to maintain this union, and he has a job to maintain the Commonwealth nation. We have to take into account, for example, one of the most populous nation in terms of in the Commonwealth is Nigeria, and King Charles has been to Nigeria probably 4 times over this period, being the prince. So he has the capacity. He has built a massive network between nations as well. And as the head now of the Commonwealth, bearing in mind what we're seeing in terms of economic situation around the world, the Commonwealth really needs to expand, but expanding not just the interests of the common nation, but expanding in the interest of the Commonwealth, that each nation will be able to generate interest, trade independently as equal partners, rather than just subject to the sovereignty of the United Kingdom. So this has definitely brought in a new thing completely to the discussion in terms of even trade for Nigeria and other nations, where we are probably between us doing almost just 4 billion per annum. But this can be expanded and Nigeria can gain more. And remember as well, Nigeria is the biggest contributor to United Kingdom in terms of maybe human capital, our unemployed, experienced, expert professional moving to United Kingdom. This year alone, UK has gained quite a lot in terms of the health sector, people moving in from Nigeria to United Kingdom. So I definitely believe that King Charles III has got an opportunity to rectify and strengthen bond, be it in Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and of course, let's remember too, over the last few days, these nations have indicated their interest by reading out that he is King Charles III over them.
Thank you, Alistair. Let's come back to the studio. Minister Akugo, Charles has been at the helm of affairs over some years due to the Queen's ill health. And the question I'm going to ask you, so that you can build on the conversation, is will he be able to command the love, trust, I call trust itself, and followership the Queen commanded while she was alive?
Yes, the accession to the throne of King Charles is an injection of additional vitality into the reign of Her Majesty the Queen. It's a continuation, because for about 20-25 years back, he has been at the helm of affairs. He's been the closest of the do I call it monarchs? The closest of the members of the royal family to Her Majesty the Queen. He has been closely what do you call it? Built up for that challenge long ago, and he has been tested. Like the other part of the discussion said, that she left the responsibility of handling the Commonwealth to him for quite some time now. So he has been groomed really for the challenge. And apart from even that one, some 7-10 years back, she relinquished the matronship of the various humanitarian groups she is given leadership to on the world. In the UK alone, there have been 600 different groups, of which she happens to be the matron. And across the globe, 2,400 different. So total 3,200 humanitarian groups, and so many of them are human rights, democratic rights, and then black civic rights groups, of which the Queen has been the champion of the distinct. Typical of it was when she spearheaded the need for the release in detention of late President Nelson Mandela. It was Prince Charles then that she delegated with the responsibility of linking up with the various governments that matters to see to the success of that expedition. And at the end, when he came, Prince Charles was the one that hosted him, and so he has been discharging this type of responsibilities for long. And then going by the experience and the age factor, I do not see any problem whatsoever. He's going to succeed in pronto because it is a system. It is not a single chair. It is a system. There are competent technocratic lieutenants around the monarchy, as a result of which I'm sure the continuation of the teamwork spirit there will continue. And that is even the reason why his emergence as the new king did not face any challenge. There has been no challenge within the royalty because it is a matter of system. He has been well tested. He has been unofficially anointed to be the successor of Her Majesty the Queen. So I do not see any problem whatsoever in that respect.
All right, Menasara, thank you very much. Let's come back to Ambassador Joe Keshi. Ambassador Joe Keshi, I mentioned this on Friday, of course, the day after the news of the Queen's passing, that Queen Elizabeth II was Nigeria's head of state from independence on the 1st of October 1960 until the 1st of October 1963, when Nigeria attained republican status. And at that time, Zik was Governor General, and of course he then became ceremonial president in 1963. And the flags are flying at half-mast, I think, yesterday and today, according to the directive from the Honorable Minister of Interior in honor of that. Although in terms of historical and political analogy, little reference is often made to the Queen as head of state of Nigeria. But certainly, I mean, you were of age. What did the transition from colonial rule to self-rule and then to independence really mean for us? And almost unfortunately, 3 years, or less than 3 years after the attainment of republican status, the First Republic collapsed.
Well, that's a very good, that's a very good question. And I think I read an article recently. I'm just trying to remember whether it was in a journal or whether it was in a newspaper by a lady who complained that we got our independence too early. I also remember that at some point under the Shagari regime, the then governor of a larger Imo state, Mbakwe, also regretted that, we were too quick in gaining independence. And I just think that to some extent, when you look at what has happened, that the Republic collapsed just under 6 years. But with the benefit of hindsight, I think the collapse was not so, again, historians will challenge this. I think that the collapse was not so much as if the then government of Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was doing extremely bad. I think it was just the fashion of that period in which the military coup that started from Togo and elsewhere, just boomerang round, you know, the continent, and it became a fashion, you know, to the extent that some, you know, tourists, you know, started talking of the role of the military. In fact, I think there's a book that people need to read. I can't remember the author, but the title is The Men on Horseback. I don't know whether you remember it, you know, justifying military rule. But the consequence of justifying that military rule is what we now see today in this country. And when you look at what happened between that period, just that short period of 6 years, Nigeria was doing relatively well. Our GDP, for example, at that period was higher than China and a number of other African, countries, even in Asia. And some that did not even exist, that today has overtaken us and so on. And I also remember that I've seen the comments of, you know, the global magazine, Time magazine, you know, describing this country at independence as, you know, a nation that will spring out to become the voice of Africa. Unfortunately, the expectations that and the hope of the 60s vis-a-vis Nigeria independence has not actually been achieved. So for independence, yet again, it was the flair, it was the thing at that time. I think, you know, one of those things because I'm listening to this discussion here vis-a-vis reparation, and my mind goes back to the fact that India as a nation was also colonized. And the same amount of brutality you hear that a number of places, countries or regions suffered under colonialism, you know, also happened in a place like India. And I don't know how many times or how much reparation the Indians are demanding, for example. But you could see today that there is no, when you look at those dominating the world, particularly in tech, they are all Indians.
Even in UK.
No, that's, you know,
Yeah, they are all Indians.
So while we are busy, you know, talking of reparation and the rest of it, these guys who also suffered from the same colonialism have gone ahead to begin to actually build themselves up in a way and manner that they are now controlling significant aspects of world development. If that is not reparation, I don't know what it is. No, to be candid. So I just think that the difference is that yes, it was good, it was great that we got you know, our independence. It was great that we became a republic and so on. But whatever has happened between that period, because look, when you look at our history, there were a lot of things that were achieved in the 6 years of parliamentary democracy in this country. And as I look at what happened, particularly the transfer of power, recently political power in Britain, I just kept wondering whether we would not have done better staying with the parliamentary
system of government,
you know, system of government, and rather than these presidential and the misunderstanding, in my view, of and the behavior. Because you see, look, for example, we copied our constitution from the United States, but we also do not have the character and the discipline
to implement,
to make that constitution work the way it was designed by the authors. Of course, the authors borrow significantly from the United States. And so when you look at it, the direct answer to that question is, yes, we deserve to rule ourselves, which was the cry of the nationalist leaders of those days. And they created great expectation, which if the coup of 1960 had not happened, 66, sorry, if the coup of 1966 had not happened, and counter, you know, coups, and if the military has left the scene earlier enough, I want to believe that the history of Nigeria would probably have been different. And with apologies to the military leaders listening, I strongly believe that if they had not stayed too long, if they had just managed the initial crisis and left the civilians to continue, our story would have been different. And you, again, I refer to India. In spite of all, look, we are complaining here that we have 200 and something ethnic groups. How many do they have in India?
More than 1,000.
More than double that.
Yeah, more than 1,000.
Yes. But they continue because they have been consistent.
There was no interruption to their democracy.
No interruption till today.
That is the difference,
and this
yes.
is why India is where it is and we are where we are.
So, some experts say that we got our independence on a platter of gold. India was ready to kick them out. That was what some experts say.
It doesn't make a difference whether you got it on a platter of gold or you did not get it on a platter of gold. The most important thing, you know, the nationalist leaders had their ideas, they knew what they wanted, and they... Look, number one, the likes of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe started because of what he saw, the exposure he gained. And when the rest of those who went to London also came back, they had a vision of what they wanted to do in order to, you know, address some of the problems in this country. But you also find out that the generation that came after them in terms of leadership were probably the most, you know, exposed. Till today, I argue very strongly that part of the problem of our leadership is limited exposure. No, they go to Dubai, don't get me wrong. They go to England, they go to the United States, they travel around. But what they see and what inspires them,
don't take
and how,
yes,
and how they come back home energized. I know of a governor who went to Dubai for the first time and came back and told the people of his state, I'm going to make this state look like Dubai.
Ambassador Keshi, we're going to talk more about that.
But just to say that,
yes.
You know, again, part of our problem, I always come back to this, is probably has to do with leadership. So the leadership of that era, immediately post-independent, self-educated, fine gentlemen and women, committed to the ideals of independence and development.
Okay. Ambassador Keshi,
yes.
Ambassador Keshi, thanks.
We have to go on a break.
We're going on the break. I don't want us to return to this
yes.
issue after we come back from the break.
Yes.
The point has also been made that post-independence leaders of Nigeria had this exposure, and what they saw elsewhere, they brought back to replicate back home. But that, unfortunately, some of our current leaders, they go out, see things, they get exposed, and then when they come back, they do it for themselves and for only their family members. And so it's not going around.
Yes, we'll take a break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Don't go away.
Trying our best to contain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover, particularly arms and ammunition, from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all. To look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency. To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve their sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
You're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. We've been talking about the passing of a Queen of England and matters arising. Let's join Ejime now. Ejime, if you're there. Okay, Ejime.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. You know, you sort of touched on some controversies there, and the new king is not one without some. And I asked Minister Okogo here in the studio if the people would love trust and he would command the kind of following that the Queen commanded then. You know, some people never forgave him for Princess Diana's death.
Well, there are different characters. There are different human beings, and then with different characters. So I think the king is of a different hue. One remembers that somebody said he has visited Nigeria several times as prince. Yes. One of them was, he has passion, for instance, for climate. The Nigerian Conservation Foundation invited him. He belongs to Worldwide Life for Nature. And then we were, two of us, I was then with the News Agency of Nigeria and then a colleague from Reuters. We rode in a chopper, you know, from going from the wetland areas in the south and then to the north, and looking at the flora and the fauna. And I remember he made a joke. He was going into the cockpit and, you know, he's a very tall and huge man. So he had to bend and told the pilot, well, that this is not meant for tall people like him, that is meant for short people. Well, that's the kind of person we have as former Prince, now King Charles III. So I think, like, one of the panelists said that he must have been schooled to work with the system and then not go too much. But knowing him for the character, I think there will be likely, you know, this dissonance between him and then the political leadership, because he's not somebody that is known to be silenced or to keep quiet. So it remains to be seen how royalty will cage him, or how he's prepared to subdue all these characters, fairy characters, into what goes into the monarchy. But I think this is a new era, like your title suggested. Moving from somebody who is well loved, in spite of all the things that we have said, you know, symbolized dignity, and then was kind-hearted. Here is a king that, and one will not expect them to be the same. After all, you know, that even Siamese twins never behave the same way. And here is a mother and then a son. We don't expect them to, even though she must have taken some traits of the mother in the reign. The monarchy reigns and they don't rule. But it's going to be interesting to see how he manages that role as a king, and then between the monarchy and the political leadership in Britain. And then as for other countries, I think those occasions where he had to speak, they will not be there. He will now be waiting in the palace to receive visitors and can only visit, outside, so it will be few and far between. So the possibility of making some, statements that are not politically right may not be there, because everything will probably come through a statement after he must have met some of the dignitaries. But the other thing is that it coincides with the fact that we have a new prime minister, and then given what has happened before then.
Paul Ejime, thanks a lot for what you've said. I just want you to transition into another issue that is likely to be of concern, because you are seeing the agitation for republicanism among some of the territories and countries where the king and previously the queen was and still now is head of state. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, these are big countries. They have already proclaimed King Charles III as their king and head of state. But there is a great deal of agitation amongst nations in the Caribbean. Antigua, for instance, and Jamaica. What would Australia says that they won't touch the issue for another 4 years? But what would this mean? It would mean, of course, that the extent of if these agitations do succeed, what would that mean for the British monarchy?
So I think here that is where the character, difference will count. I think many of the former colonies will because of the Queen, they didn't do what perhaps no radical decisions. But now that the King is here, perhaps it presents them with an opportunity to either facilitate their, breaking the umbilical cord, as it were, or strengthening it. But I think more of loosening it. These people, everybody wants independence. I think some of those countries, those that the monarchy oversees as sovereign, I think we'll probably see some of them free themselves and then becoming a Republican. I think that is likely what we will see. This is an opportunity for them to do what they had already almost, threatened to do. That is to become independent of Great Britain. That's my thinking, that perhaps more countries will join. But interestingly, for the Commonwealth, this is different. Commonwealth has just grown from 54 to 56. Former French colonies and maybe Portuguese are likely to join because they see the fact that it presents them with an opportunity. And that is going to expand the scope of where the king will preside, where he will reign and not rule. So it's maybe on balance. Some sovereign, those states where the monarch presides as sovereign may want to become independent, and that does not stop them from, that will not make them leave the Commonwealth of Nations, but just becoming like a republic that Nigeria and other countries, a status that other countries have attained. And in terms of the local Great Britain, I see also a situation where perhaps it can also facilitate other countries, Scotland, Wales, they might want to have another go at self-determination. They see it as an opportunity. The figurehead that the Queen represented is not there. And between this transition, between when the Queen has passed and then when a new king assumes reign, could be an opportunity for them to make some statements about.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Ejume. Yes, it's an opportunity they will get to be able to maybe have a referendum on how they want to govern themselves now the Queen is not there. Thank you. Let me come back to the studio briefly, Minister Okogo.
Yes.
Will we ever see, you know, a Britain without the Queen now? And based on the ascension, are we ever going to see another Queen in the next 50 years or so?
Well, nothing is impossible, really. And, you know, the good thing about British system is they are the most dynamic. In the 16th, 17th, and 18th century, they control all the virtually greater part of the waters of the world. And the development of the time now came into the issue of territorial contest. And then they dumped that aspect and went into acquisition of colonies. And then when it was time for decolonization too, they were the first. They were the first to really surrender the distance to other things. So I don't see much problem really regarding whether some people will be raising hue and cry over the quest for independence or whatever from the sovereign leadership. It is possible a queen may emerge. We do not know what the future unfolds. But the good thing is that we should be optimistic that if going by the way the Queen reigned and by the way the Queen died and the succession there, it is a very good point of emulation that leaders all over the world should try as much as possible to emulate. Going by the way the 15 prime ministers finished and left, no single one went to the court to challenge the methodology of his exit. Is another legendary thing that all other countries should copy, especially democratic countries.
Minister, thank you very much.
Yes.
There's a point that I would like Alista is still with us via Zoom. On Friday, I did say that Queen Elizabeth II was a fashionista.
Yes.
What will happen to the Queen's wardrobe? We have an idea.
Briefly, please.
Well, I think the most important thing of the Queen's possessions is the corgi, the dogs, which Prince Edward, I believe, Prince Edward has, no, I think Prince Andrew has decided to take care of the dogs. And in terms of the wardrobe, I think there will definitely be an archive, and hopefully all these latest movies to do with the royal family can be hired. They can hire those clothes and wardrobe. And of course, the most important one, maybe to do with some important ceremony during her time, will be utilized for people to go and visit and generate more revenue for the United Kingdom and the royal family. On the last line as well is, when we talk about the Commonwealth and the other nation, there's actually a possibility that some nation may not actually withdraw from the sovereign of the United Kingdom, in the sense that now we find that people are migrating from one nation to the other. And you do not want to be too far away from United Kingdom, which is one of the strongest nations in terms of economic freedom for people. As Nigeria used to be, you don't need a visa before to come to UK. Right now, if you're applying for visa to come to UK, it takes even months before you get the visa. So if you have the opportunity of being closer, I think nations now will just need to renegotiate the deals that they have with the United Kingdom going forward for their more independency, economic freedom, and opportunity for their citizens to be able to move around. UK happens to be a destination for many, many Nigerians, and Nigerians contribute enormously to the development and the growth of United Kingdom. Back quickly on what Ambassador Joe talked about leadership. When our leaders for me in Nigeria are not been punished for the crime they commit, if any, then that is the reason why I believe that we'll continue to suffer the consequences of bad governance and bad leadership. But when they know that they commit crime against humanity and the Nigerian people, no matter how defective the constitution of Nigeria is, then we'll begin to generate more interest and development will begin to take place.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Alex Sorode, former global leader, Nigerians in Diaspora Organization and founder, First Black and Ethnic Satellite TV in Europe. Thank you so much for your insight on the topic. Okay. The guest in the studio now, Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As usual, it's a pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Minister Kogo Umar, International Analyst and Governance and National Building. As usual, your insight is deeply appreciated. And Paul Ejume, who joined us via Zoom from Lagos, International Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much. We'll go over now to the world of sports.
Rivers United defeated visiting Watanga FC of Liberia 3-0 in the first leg of their CAF Champions League tie at the Adokia Mesiamaka Stadium, Port Harcourt on Sunday. All 3 goals came in the first half of the game. Kenachukwu Agu gave the hosts the lead on 8 minutes. Stanley Gume's side doubled their lead 10 minutes later. Ghana defender Paul Akwa added the 3rd goal in the first half at a time. The second leg will take place in Monrovia next week Sunday. In Formula 1, Red Bull's Max Verstappen inflicted a home defeat on Charles Leclerc and Ferrari in the Italian Grand Prix to continue his cruise to his 2nd world title. The Dutchman bit Leclerc after the Italian team tried a questionable 2-stop strategy, surrendering the lead to the reigning champion twice on track. Verstappen's 11th win this year puts him 115 points clear of Leclerc and means he could potentially clinch the championship at the next race in Singapore. Mercedes' George Russell took 3rd place ahead of Ferrari of Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes, both of whom fought up from the back of the grid.
Behind the safety car, he wins the Italian Grand Prix. He will stand on the podium at Monza for the first time in his Formula 1 career.
And that has been Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again for another insightful edition of the program tomorrow. I am Jumba Yourself.
And I'm Kingsley Osadala saying have a nice day.